Hey everyone, and welcome to the Conscious Christian Marriage Podcast. I am your host, Rachel Holt, and I have a very special guest here with me today. Her name is Ashley Hardy, and I am so excited about today because not only is Ashley a good friend of mine, but she's an employee at CCM. Mm-hmm. She's been a member in CCM, which we'll talk more about. For how many years, Ashley?
3.
Yeah. It feels like more.
It feels like more. We've been friends for longer.
Yeah. And so Ashley moved, her and her husband, Jonathan, amazing people, amazing leaders in the church, incredible parents, followers of the Lord, truly have inspired my faith walk and helped me to just be a better Christian. Just being in community with them has really impacted my life. And they moved from Springfield to Lee Summit to help start Summit Park Church, our church, which we like to talk about a lot. I feel like every episode of our podcast is like a shout out to Summit Park Church. Yeah. If you live in Kansas City or if you're coming through, come visit us at Summit Park. But they were part of the church plant that came to Kansas City to help start Summit Park Church. And I've been blessed by that. I'm continually being blessed by the seeds that you guys sowed all those years. And Ashley was my first kind of like friend contact at the church because I was like, I want to get involved in a life group, which is what we called them back then, life groups. Yeah. And she was our life group leader. Or actually, I joined your ladies' life group first.
Yeah.
And then joined the couples life group. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, this is a very long intro. I'll give you a chance to talk. Ashley is amazing. And our story is really special. Her story is really special. I'm sure this is the first of many podcast episodes you'll be on because there are so many things about who you are and even the way that you do friendship, that you and I do friendship. I want other people to know more about that. That could be another podcast episode. And your faith. I want to talk more about that sometime. So listeners, be ready. You'll be seeing more of Ashley at some point because she's amazing. But yes, Ashley, thank you for being on this podcast today and tell us 3 interesting things. Like tell the listeners, if you could kind of summarize a few special and maybe fun things about yourself.
Okay.
What would it be?
I love Jesus. I love the local church. I was called into what I thought was ministry, full-time ministry at the age of 13 and worked really hard towards that as a teenager and early in college. My 13-year-old taught me how to quilt, so I made my first quilt a year ago.
That's adorable. It's really pretty too.
Thanks.
Yeah. Tell us about your kids. So you and your husband.
My husband and I have been in basically full-time ministry since before we were married. And we have a 13-year-old daughter, a 10-year-old son, and a 7-year-old daughter.
Yeah, who looks a lot like you. She has like beautiful little blonde ringlety curls.
She does.
All 3 of your kids are amazing.
Thank you.
And I'm just sad. So guys, they moved back to Springfield. They came to Summit Park. They helped start the church. They were there for a long time and saw yourselves staying. Yeah. Until God just called you out.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. And those of you that are in ministry know that your life it's the Lord's, and whenever he calls, you know that you can't shake it. So we obey the call of the Lord and have never regretted it. Yeah. God has been so good.
Yeah. And I am honored to have witnessed that faith journey for you. That's like a small part of the bigger thing with praying for healing and God speaking and God moving and God healing some things and not healing others. But I will never forget when you moved, you kind of had this experience, and then I had it losing you as a local friend, where you're like, I'm close to God because I'm kind of like this little girl that's like, Daddy, I don't like this. I'm not happy about this. But you said to do it, so I'm going to do it. But I'm not happy about it. You know? But that's good. It's like you're close to God's heart, even though it's like you still honored him. You were being forthcoming with your feelings, which, we talk about this in marriage, not withholding. Yeah. You were not withholding from God. You were honest with him about how you felt. But you're like, I don't like this, but I'm still going to do it.
Yeah, I remember telling you, I feel like a brat right now. I feel like a brat. I'm just complaining. But you know what? I am living out everything that I felt like the Lord put in our hearts 3 years ago, about 3 years ago when we moved back. I knew that our children were going to thrive in the move, and I'm living out everything I dreamed of and hoped for, and that really is the goodness of God. And I'm just thankful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I felt that way as far as losing a friend. I was like, God, I don't understand why. And then God since has done amazing things in bringing other local friends into my life.
It's true.
And then we've had these like very honest conversations when you're like, I'm meeting a new friend and we're having fun. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, okay. I know you still love me. And so we've grown in our friendship of like, yeah, I'm secure in myself because I know you love me.
Yes.
But we also both have lives in different cities.
Yes.
So we have good friendships.
Yes.
And we still are good friends. So
it's true.
So Ashley, tell us a little bit about your story as a Christian and your history with being a church leader. Like, I know you guys have done some incredible things. And before coming to Summit Park, you guys were involved at James River, and then you were involved at Summit Park, and now you're back at James River and Springfield. So kind of share about that.
Sure. I was saved. I gave my life to the Lord at the age of 13, and it was right after my mom's second divorce. And I can appreciate myself for this, but also know that God chose me and put a calling in my heart. And instead of doing things that maybe some teenagers would do to self-cope or self-medicate, I just clung to the Lord. And in that season of really being discipled and really leaning in and developing spiritual disciplines, I was called into ministry and was really focused on that at an early age. And so came to Bible school and met my husband. And it's the story is longer than that, but we got married, and our first jobs were being in ministry at a church in Springfield, Missouri called James River Church. And I'm forever thankful for that experience of building leadership skills in us, and also watching the faith of our leaders help to build my faith and make me the woman that I am today. And I'm very thankful for John and Debbie Lindell for that. And about 7 years into our full-time ministry jobs there and ministry there, we felt called to go with some friends, Scott and Jenna Brimsky, to plant Summit Park Church in Lee Summit. And we had never been to Lee Summit before, but we could not shake the call on our life. We knew that we were supposed to be here. And so the way that it went about, it's again long, but we, instead of kind of going behind what we would consider our leaders' backs, we did not talk to Scott and Jen about it. We went straight to our pastor, and we were honest about what was in our heart to do, and he blessed it. And so that was a big ministry learning opportunity for us. And really, there was a grace on it, of course, but because we trusted him as our mentor and our spiritual leader, he blessed our leaving and helped us get here, helped us get to Kansas City. Yeah. And Kansas City, the journey here was beautiful. We were on staff really full time for just 6 months, but then my husband did like a part-time thing. When you church plant, you never know. But God was faithful. Like, we never lost sleep. We never lost food. We never lost anything. God was always faithful and provided in the journey. And so we were on the lead team until 2020, December of 2020, I think, or 2019. So it was about 7 years that we were on the lead team at Summit Park Church. Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, we have been so blessed through what you guys have done, because you prayed, like, all the prayers that you prayed for Summit Park Church, and all the prayer walks that you went on, and all the little investments that you made, and and the big investments, right, like turning your whole life upside down. But all of those investments are now, like, people you don't even know are reaping the fruit of it. Yeah. Because God used your willingness, and he used your hands. Because you could have said no to that calling, but you got to co-create something very cool with God and with other believers. Yeah. To bless me. Oh, I feel like the direct recipient of so many blessings from that season of life that you poured into our church. Because I know the prayers you prayed in the difficult seasons, of planting a church, like the tear down, the setup, the tear down, the, doing church in a gym, and then inviting people, just trying to evangelize everywhere you go.
Everywhere. I made friends at the library. I made friends in Walmart one time. I was just like, I don't know anybody in the city.
Here's the thing, though, Ashley, and Austin and I were just talking about this on Sunday. That's how we should all be everywhere we go, like all the time. And I know you are, like, even now that you're back at Springfield, and it's not like we left to start this church.
Yeah.
That's how we should all be.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Like, you don't have to go to Honduras, for a missions trip. You don't have to go to Africa. Like, we are missionaries every single day. Mm-hmm. In fact, one thing I want to do in our next home is write on the door something like, you are now entering the mission field, like the door that goes into the garage. So every time we leave, because I talk about that with our kids, and we're, even our homeschool co-op, like it's a Christian-based co-op, but like that's where my kids rub elbows with other kids, and it's their opportunity to be the love of Jesus. And so I tell them, like, when we're on the way and we're getting off the exit, I'm like, okay, like, what are you going to do today to be the love of Jesus? And like, you're entering the mission field, guys. Like, you're exiting this car, you're going into the world, like, mama's letting you, like, do your thing. And you get to be, like, God gets to love people through you. So what are you going to do?
So good.
And, my 4-year-old, she's always like, I'm going to help someone up when they fall down. And so sometimes I'm like, what if somebody doesn't fall down? Like, what do you do? She's like, I will be encouraging, And so fostering that at a young age. And I just appreciate that you guys are like that. Like, you are so focused on, like, the mission doesn't stop, like, it's your life. Like, you're called to be a missionary for the gospel.
Yeah, gather people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I honor and appreciate that in you because, I am a direct recipient, and I will never forget that. So thank you.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So, it's pretty awesome that now we get to work together. I feel like it's pretty natural with Austin and I. Like, we just love people and we love gathering people. I mean, we've created CCM, but all the people that are kind of closest to us end up working for it.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. It works. It's a win-win.
Like, let's have fun together. We're so aligned in our values. Like, why wouldn't we do this awesome thing together? So I love that you work for us, but you didn't always. And you and your husband had joined our program. And I think it would be really powerful for our listeners to know what made you decide that you were going to start, investing more in your marriage. Like, what was the point for you?
You're okay until you're not okay. And our marriage was great. We had a great marriage. Like, I wake up every day madly in love with my husband. I love him.
I love that.
But I had some interpersonal trauma from just childhood stuff and just things, in all respect to parents, right? Like, I love my parents, but there were just some things that were coming up for me. And it's funny, too, how, like, when you become a parent, it's like they bring out the worst in you. Or I was like, it's not really, consciousness tells us that it's not them. It's really everything in you that was coming up for you. And just being a mom, like, there was these things and these triggers, and I would be so overcome with sadness sometimes and or anger, and I couldn't figure out, like, okay, I mean, I thought about hiring an Enneagram coach, and I have a master's degree in counseling. Like, I've read all the books, and we've been in ministry, like, we've helped a lot of people, but I was like, I was okay until I wasn't okay, and I knew that I wanted to not stay in the periods of sadness for long. I wanted to be able to move through them and understand where they came from. Yeah. And so I just got to a point where I knew that in order to be the best wife and the best mom and to make the most impact and greatest legacy, I wanted to get better. And I knew that investing in my marriage and being a part of what you were doing was a great start. And it's not been a start, it's been like everything. So 3 years now, and I'm like, oh, I'm a lifer, I'll do this forever.
You coined that phrase. You're like, I'm a lifer.
I'm a lifer.
I was like, oh, I didn't know this was a thing. I love it. Yeah. And what you said is really powerful because, we talk about this, that marriage it's like God's secret design to help you heal, right? Well, so is parenting. Yeah. It's like you say, this is so hard. What'd you say? This is triggering. no, you said it differently.
They bring out the worst in
Oh,
you.
yeah. And that's kind of an unconscious, like,
So
statement,
unconscious, yes.
air quotes, to be like, they bring out the worst in me.
Yeah.
Really what that means is I have some landmines. I have some unhealed stuff. And God actually designed parenting to be this mirror.
Yes.
Just like marriage. It's like, what's the mirror? Because God wants us to heal. He wants us to be, to return back to the way that we were born. Like, the way that God intended for us to be before trauma, before, you know, these painful experiences in life that our brain said, oh, you need to become this way to survive.
Yeah.
And God says, no, like, I want my love to reverse that, to undo that. And I want you to want it and to recognize it. And that's a huge part of what marriage is and what parenting is. And I think that's the difference between people who invest in their growth and who don't, is recognizing that they're, oh, okay, like, this isn't bad. Conflict, you know, we don't call conflict, we call it learning opportunities. Like with your parenting, you know, it's like, this isn't, quote, air quotes, bad necessarily. This is pointing me to areas that I could improve, like that I could heal, and then I wouldn't have this landmine and I could enjoy life more, you know, like experience the kingdom on earth. Like, right, we get to experience God in heaven, and that's going to be amazing. And I'm excited for that. But also God's like, I came so that you can have life and have it abundantly. And that promise is not just like knowing that we have forgiveness in Christ, but it's healing. Yeah.
Yes.
And we do get to co-create that with God. Like Austin and I have said, I know we've said it on here before, like, God can just heal you, and he has and he will. And that will be another episode. I know it will.
Yes.
But most of the time, we don't necessarily learn the lesson that way. And he wants us to learn the lesson so we stay healed, you know?
Yeah. There's a mystery sometime in waiting for what you know has been promised to you. There's a mystery in it. And and there's a lesson because he wants to get close to you and he wants you to grow.
That's right. Yeah, because in the lesson we lean in.
Absolutely.
And God's like, yeah, that's where I want you, for sure.
Yeah, it's true.
That's good. So why do you think Christian leaders should invest in the growth of their marriage?
Yeah, out of the marriage flows everything. And if we can't take care of our marriage, then we can't take care of anything else. That's a requirement for leaders in the church is if you can't take care of your family, if you can't take care of your own household, then you will never be able to take care of God's house. And and you know, sometimes like it makes me sad to think that church leaders have the expectation to be perfect or have it all together. Or they'll say, oh, that marriage work, like that's for them. Like, we're good. You know, it's like this self-preservation kind of attempt. But we all have growing to do. Like, we will be growing until we get to heaven. Yeah. And it doesn't ever stop just because we're in leadership. All the more when we're in leadership, we need to be receiving so that then we can give. Because you can't give what you don't have. Yeah. And so if you're not leading people by example, and then getting the knowledge and getting the healing and getting ideas and getting the inspiration, like that's how you're serving God's people and God's house and everybody around you the best. Yeah. So it's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we say, is how you do everything is how you do everything.
So good.
So if how you do your marriage is crappy, well, your ministry is going to reap the fruit of that too. Like, how do you grow a ministry? Like, Christian leaders should be focusing on their marriage in the same way that they focus on their ministry. What I'm saying is, how do you grow a ministry? You invest in it. You give it your time. Your attention. Yeah. And we know leaders in the church, and by leaders, I even mean all of us. All of us can take this. Like, if you are a Christian, like, you are called to be a leader. And I think that needs to be more of a focus than like, here's this one person. Because again, it puts that person on a pedestal, and unfortunately for them, it puts pressure on their shoulders to be perfect. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I'm in the example for everyone, all 5,000 people or however many. They're all looking up to me and counting on me. And that pressure is not really natural for someone to experience. And so, how do you grow a ministry? This is for all of us, not just someone who's like a head pastor or someone that's literally like employed by the church, right? I consider myself someone in leadership and ministry because I serve. I'm a leader. And I appreciate our church does say that. Like, you're a leader. Like, you're greeting people at hospitality, you're a leader.
Yeah.
And so what I mean by this is, how do you grow your ministry? You invest in it. You give it your time, your attention, your creativity, your focus, and your like passion and drive, you know? And we should also be giving that first to our marriage because, like you said, it trickles from that. You know, it's like God, then our marriage, and then like, whew, like that power from our marriage and from the connection that we have then is able, then I'll finish the sentence, then is able to then go to all of our areas that we're focusing on and leading in. And as, you know, even just leading CCM, I can relate to that. Like the pressure of like, okay, well, I'm telling people how to have a great marriage. Like I better be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
But that doesn't do me any favors, putting that pressure on myself. But also, I hold myself to a really high standard. Because I am a leader and how I do everything is how I do everything. So I want to do my marriage with excellence, just like I want to do everything else with excellence. And I like that you mentioned the requirement for leaders. I think this is a really good point and makes me think of 1 Timothy 3:1-5. The saying is trustworthy. If anyone aspires to the office of overseer, he desires a noble task. Therefore, an overseer must be above reproach, the husband of one wife. Well, that's good.
That's so good.
One wife, sober-minded, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not a drunkard, not violent but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money. And this is the good. We're getting to the good stuff. It's all good. But listen to this. He must manage his own household well, with all dignity, keeping his children submissive. For if someone does not know how to manage his own household, how can he care for God's church? And this is for all of us, right? Like I consider myself a leader. I want to be a leader as a Christian. Like I want to lead others. And like you said, if we can't lead, if we're not doing well in the area of our marriage and like our home front, then how can we be doing well at church or, you know, in the world? And I see a direct correlation to that. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. My husband works with church leaders around the country, and it's actually surprising how many church leaders they have like interventions with because they have given everything they have to the body, but they're like in the fetal position on the floor having in crisis because they haven't invested in themselves and they haven't invested in their marriage. And I mean, really, like, what's the point if we're giving everything we have to the church, which is good, but if we're letting our marriage and our children basically die, like what legacy is that? And our first ministry is our marriage and our parenthood. So yeah.
I think this is why, well, I know this is one of the big reasons why there's so many moral failures in the church and in church leadership, because they're neglecting that. And like you said, it's like they're focusing, the heart's intention is good, it's right?
Good, yes.
They're wanting to serve, and all of that is from a good place. And like we choose to see it that way always. Like there's good desire there, but it can be really easy to forget the priority. And I think that's why there's so much moral failure. And I'm not just saying, you know, like a sex scandal or something. I'm saying like the pastor is now in the fetal position because he's traumatized himself, really. Like he's put himself through so much without support, and good, consistent support. You know, like you said, a lot of times they wait too long and then are on life support, which, yes, shout out to Jonathan. He is an author of a book called Arrow Striker, Jonathan Hardy. You should go look that up. Her husband, Jonathan and Ashley, are just such good people, and you'll get to hear more about their story in Arrow Striker and their faith journey. So if anything that Ashley has said, you know, about her personal life or their journey of faith, like definitely go check that book out, because Jonathan speaks around the country and helps him and Ashley's father-in-law they're like the cutest duo. I'm sorry, I know they're like grown men, but it's just
great.
Adorable as a mom of as a wife and a mom of a son,
Yes.
just seeing them together, I'm like, oh, that's going to be my husband and son someday.
Yep.
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 They're like this power leadership couple. You know what I mean?
No, they have a huge heart for church
Yes.
leaders, and I do too.
Yeah.
And it's what they've given their life to really over the last about 10 years.
A whole decade. Yeah.
So
They've poured so much into church leadership and have really made a huge impact in so many congregation and church leadership. I mean, yeah, it's like when you help a church leader and support them really well, that's impacting a lot of people. So what they do is really, really powerful and has blessed a lot of people. So
thank you.
Shout out to Jonathan. And you're his wife, so shout out to you because you're amazing.
Thank you. Well, something I'd like to appreciate you for is the deep desire for breaking the stigma of marriage work and your desire to lighthouse it in a very beautiful way. It's inspiring, and I think our generation is going to make great strides in investing in our marriage as a good thing, not a negative thing, like something's wrong. So thank you for that, because you've led a lot of people by example in investing in marriage, and it's not because we're in trouble. It's because we love each other and we want to get better and better. And I love that about you.
Yeah. Thank you. I received that. Appreciate you. All right. So that leads us to our nonprofit shout out, which I let Ashley pick today because, she's our guest and I wanted her to pick a nonprofit shout out. But then when she told me, I was like, yay, I love this nonprofit. So
when we moved to Kansas City, this beautiful woman walked up to me, shook my hand and said, my name is Crystal, and I have a nonprofit called Lullaby of Hope. And Lullaby of Hope delivers baskets to women who have suffered loss in the womb. And Crystal has a really amazing story of tragedy and loss, and she was not a victim about it. She and she had like every right to be in sorrow and in loss, and my heart just goes out to her and so many women who have suffered loss in the womb. But she took the leftover money that was donated to her when she buried her daughter, and she made gift baskets for women struggling soon after her loss. And now it's this huge nonprofit. They've delivered, I think, into the thousands of baskets to women, and it's an incredible, incredible team.
Yeah. And I've used them many times. So if you know someone, and put this in your back pocket, lullabyofhope.org. We'll put the link in the description. But anytime that you know someone who's experienced a loss, this is an incredible way to be just so much love and encouragement to them, because sometimes it is hard to know what to say because you don't want to say something that might be painful or, you don't want to say something that might be painful for them, but you want to show love and support. And this is something that comes from someone who has experienced that. So she knows the blessing that it is, and everything is prayed over. Everything is curated by other women. Like my stepsister is a part of the team. It's incredible women who all just partner with Crystal to do God's work. And they write handwritten notes and pray over it and mail it. And we have used it many times to send to people in their loss. And it's such a blessing to me even to be able to support people, just that resource exists.
Yes, I know.
So we're encouraging you. If you enjoyed this episode, or even if you hated it, I don't care. Just go to lullabyofhope.org and give them, $5. I think the gift baskets are $40. So, donate a gift basket or 12 to Lullaby of Hope, because your money directly goes to blessing parents. It's not just the mothers, but it's a huge blessing to these parents as they're, dealing with severe loss and tragedy. So Lullaby of Hope, cannot overhype them enough. I feel that way about all our nonprofits. I just want to talk about them for a long time.
I know.
I really appreciate Austin that he had this idea.
It
was his idea.
Good.
He's like, I don't want it to be about us. Like, we can teach, but I want to give, I want God to be moving through our episodes and to share ministries. So I love that we do it.
I love it. Yeah.
I've literally had the limiting belief, what if we run out of nonprofits? But I'm like, no. We'll just keep going back to our favorites. All right. So the last question I have for you is, what would you say to someone on the fence about doubling down on their marriage, and what good things can come from that?
Okay. I would say that, and you've said this before, when's the best time to plant a tree? Okay, like a long time ago, but now. So don't wait any longer. And I look at some couples and look at the way my life was before we joined CCM and before I really made a commitment to being a conscious Christian. Mm-hmm. The little things that would come up in the energy that a couple can spend, and I can take ownership that we would spend on little squabbles. Mm-hmm. So who's going to put the kids to bed, or what are we going to have for dinner, or okay, you could pick a lot of things. Who's cleaning up the kitchen? Or,
taking out the trash.
Okay, all of those little things that a couple can spend a lot of energy on is now spent, because we've worked through all those things, is now spent on creating and building and having fun and doing things that are productive and add value to our lives and to our children. I don't have to be caught up in okay. Yes. All women do this, where you're in your head, okay. So one of the greatest shifts for me is taking radical responsibility. And something happened a couple of months ago between me and Jonathan. Okay, I asked him before bed. I said, "Hey," because I take care of the dishes. Okay, that's just my chore. I do dishes. But he had come home late and he made his own food, and I said, "Hey, can you start the dishwasher before you go to bed?" And he's like, "Yeah, got it." I'm like, "Okay." I get up the next morning and I'm going through the dishes, trying to unload them. And I'm like, these dishes do not look clean. But I knew it had been run because the green light was on. And I was like, "Hey, babe, did you put detergent in the dishwasher?" And he was like, "Nope, you just asked me to run it." Okay, so the old Ashley, pre-conscious Ashley, would have been just,
you didn't.
Basically how stupid are you? It's basically the message that the story that I would have, that's what I would have communicated to him by how I would respond to that. Mm-hmm. But radical responsibility, which is something that CCM in the community we talk about a lot, and if you're conscious, you understand this, that I'm responsible. And I create everything that I experience, and I do that by taking full responsibility. So in that moment, I did not get angry. I was just "You're right. I didn't tell you to put detergent in it, and I didn't put detergent in it. I take full responsibility." And I laughed. I was like, "Oh yeah, whatever, okay." And it wasn't a fight. Yeah. And I wasn't angry about it all day long.
Yeah, and you guys connected over it.
And we connected over it.
It was the opposite of a fight.
It was the opposite of a fight.
It was funny and cute.
And we laughed. Yeah, we were like, okay. And Jonathan's like, "Oh, okay." And, it's not a thing. It doesn't have to be a thing when you make commitments to those little things. And it's just, I'm so glad for that investment, because really think about the energy that we spend on something like a dishwasher, the dirty dishes.
Yeah.
So I'm just very thankful. So I would say that's one of the biggest shifts that I have experienced in joining the community and just growing as a conscious Christian. So it's life-changing, and that's one little example of how.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine taking the little things that you used to create so much conflict. Mm-hmm. And see, we are creative beings. Don't you ever, listener, don't you ever say you're not creative, because I've heard a lot of people say that. You are created in the image of God. Of a creator. And he is a creator. Mm-hmm. At his very core, God is a creator. And we are too. Mm-hmm. And we will create conflict if we don't have something good to put our energy into. So if you're not putting positive, good energy into your marriage to up level, you're going to use your creative energy to find things that are wrong, in spats, how can I win this, all that stuff. You use your creative energy for conflict every day, if you have conflict every day, which we call learning opportunities.
Yes. Yeah.
But unconsciously, if you're doing the whole conflict thing, it's conflict. You're literally creating something out of nothing. And imagine that. I mean, it's just such a good example, Ashley. It's funny.
It is.
Because it's oh, yeah, I didn't put soap in, and I just told you to run it,
Yeah, and like my husband's a smart guy. Like he knows how to start the dishwasher, but I'm not gonna.
And he started it.
And he started it. He did what I asked him to do.
It's very cute. Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for being on today and just taking the time out of your day and your trip into Kansas City, which had other things involved. So thank you for taking time out of your trip to be here and to bless our listeners. So thank you. I really appreciate you. You're a blessing to me, to the world, and hopefully I know you're a blessing to the listeners today. So thank you for taking your time. And listener, thank you for tuning in. We love and appreciate you as well. And as always, comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't already. Give us a 5-star review. Unless you hated this, just move right along.
Yeah.
It's okay if you hated it. We still love ourselves.
Yeah, that's true. It's so good.
So, and if it's not for you, it's not for you. So that's okay.
Yeah.
And we bless you on your way. So we would love to hear from you, though. So comments are awesome. Share your thoughts, share your heart, and go. And if you donated to Lullaby of Hope, comment on YouTube or send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you. Until next time.